Hi, I'm Forcella-Burton, the Director of Post-18 at the Lee Academy, and this is the second video in the series of 5 about all of the options available to you at the end of Year 13. This one is primarily going to focus on a little bit more detail if you decide that going into full-time employment, doing an apprenticeship or taking a gap year is what you are the most interested in. So, it is very important that you recognise that most employment experts now predict that young people leaving Year 13 now will probably have about 8 different careers during the course of their working lifetime, and that at least half of those careers currently don't exist because technology is developing at the speed that it is. There are going to be employment opportunities for you in the future that we can't even dream about existing at the moment. When I and your parents were your age at school, we were very much told you choose a career and that's going to be the career that you're going to follow for the rest of your working life. That is not the way it is anymore. All you've really got to worry about is choosing your starting career, because as I say, most of the careers you'll end up following in your working life don't exist at the moment anyway. You can't predict what they're going to be. So you only need to worry about choosing your starting career, the thing that's going to be your launch pad into your working life. And step 1 is to define what that starting career is going to be. Another really important consideration when it comes to choosing a career is you are only choosing the career you want to be doing for maybe the first 5 years of your working life. The government keeps putting the retirement age up. You're going to be at work for a really long time, potentially the next 50 years or more, and therefore you don't need to be worrying about what your 50-year career is going to be. You really only need to be worrying about what your first career is going to be. So you start by defining what your starting career is going to be. Now, how do you do that? There are lots of people that you can turn to help you in this. For example, you might have a family friend or a connection in the family who is doing a career that you really like the sound of. They could be the perfect person to help get you set up for that being your starting career. You might have a hobby or an interest that you decide that you want to develop. For example, a couple of years ago, we had a boy in Year 13 who was doing engineering and product design in Post-18, and he had a real passion for steam engines, and he decided he wanted to turn his passion into a career, and that led to him beginning his working life at a steam railway, learning how to be a steam engine engineer. So there's nothing wrong with turning something you're just really interested in into your career. You might be really into photography, for example, and you might decide you want to try and turn that into your starting career. There might be geographical issues that dictate what your starting career is. You might be very firmly fixed on being in one particular area, and there might be that there's only certain employment opportunities in that geographical area. And that might dictate what your starting career is. And then also you want to be thinking about your aptitude, in other words, whether you'd actually be any good at that career. Now, I might have dreamt of being an astronaut as a child, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I've got what it takes to be an astronaut. So you've got to think, what is your personal skill set? What are you actually any good at? What kind of a career might that actually then set you up for? So those 4 things can be crucial in helping you work out your starting career. There's another really good thing that you can do, which is called taking a Moresby test. On the website, I've given you the link to Moresby. They're an organisation you have to pay to take the test, but you get a lifetime membership of Moresby so that in the future you can keep returning to it and keep retaking the test, and it will tell you careers that you are particularly suitable for undertaking. So if you've got no idea what kind of a career to start with, taking a Moresby test can be really, really good. It takes a couple of hours to work your way through all the questions that you do on a Moresby test, because they give you such precise matches of careers that could be really good fits for you going forward. There's another link that I've put on the website called Career Pilot. They are really good. They are free as well, in giving you information and ideas about careers that could be a really good one for you to consider going forward. So researching what a good starting career looks like could either be turning to someone in your family or someone who's a friend of your family for advice, or it could be doing some research through something like Morrisby or Career Pilot. There are other really good websites that you can go to that can give you lots of free advice about careers and what could be good starting careers for you. And I've put some links here on the slideshow that you can follow that will take you through. There's a really good site that I highly recommend to you called notgoingtouni.co.uk. They are really, really good at helping people who've got level 3 qualifications like you to come up with careers that are going to feel like a progression from what you've been doing at school, that will then set you on the path for a good starting career. There's a lot more opportunity out there than you probably realise at the moment, and it's only by doing that kind of research that you're going to find out about all the different careers that are available to you. So once you've done your research and you've talked to all the people that you need to talk to, you need to take stock for a moment at that point, because you might have found out that, for example, you need to do some more study to be able to do the career that you think would be the one that's perfect for you. Don't be disappointed if that's the case. It might be that you just have to do an apprenticeship rather than going straight into full-time employment, so that you can build your qualification level up to make you equipped for doing that particular role. It might be that for certain jobs that you've really set your heart on doing something, that you discover that really you need to get a degree first, and then you're just going to have to bite the bullet and go off and do a degree first instead. So take stock and think, do I need to do any more study to be able to do that starting career? Something else you need to consider is, do you need to go off and get some work experience to be able to do that career? Now, you know that so long as you aren't, the dates you choose aren't clashing with any fixed dates from the exam board, i.e. the date of any exams or the date of a hand-in to the exam board of coursework, you can take work experience weeks whenever you like during the course of Post-18. You just need to come and talk to me to get that set up. So if you discover that you need to do some work experience, then get that work experience set up, and hopefully that will give you the leg up that you need to be able to do the career that you've identified. It might be that you need to start working up some contacts, maybe some contacts you've got through your family or your friend network, or it might be that you need to come and talk to us in school and say, do you know anybody that's involved in that particular career? Because across the entire staff of the Lee Academy, we know lots of people that are working in lots of different career sectors. Across the Lee Academy's trust, we've got people who are employed just to create those networks with employers, and so we are very likely to be able to put you in contact with someone that can either at least give you some advice, and hopefully maybe even some work experience as well. Whatever you find out when you do this research about starting careers, whether it's going to lead to doing full-time employment or an apprenticeship, it's really important you do that research carefully and in plenty of time to give you time to respond to it if you find out you do need to go to university or you do need to get some work experience. So get underway with it now, and once you've come up with a plan about what you're going to do, it's really important that you stick to it, particularly around the timings of when you need to get things done by. Now, it might be that you decide you do want to take a step out for a year and go off and do a gap year. I am a massive advocate of gap years. I think they can develop you as a person in a way that no other of these options actually can, particularly if you go off and have an adventure during that year. When I was your age, applied for university, but once I got there I realised I'd applied for the wrong course, so I wasn't happy studying what I was studying. And so I dropped out of my university degree at the Christmas of the first year, And I ended up taking an inadvertent gap year. I hadn't intended to take a gap year, but because I couldn't restart my degree on the right course until the following autumn, I ended up having 9 months that I needed to fill. And I ended up taking a gap year. I worked for a bit, and then I went off and spent 4 months on a kibbutz in Israel. And then when I got back, I then spent a month touring around Europe. I had the most amazing time. And for me, going to another country and doing something so different from anything that I'd ever done before, in an environment that was so completely different from that which I was used to, was an absolutely life-changing decision for me. And it changed me as a person, and actually it's probably had the biggest impact on the person that I've ended up as now, just because I ended up taking that gap year experience. So it's really important that you choose the right gap year for yourself. Ask yourself seriously, how much are you going to develop as a human being? How much is your perspective on the world going to change if you just go full-time in the part-time job you've had during Post-18? Ask yourself, is there going to be a benefit for you in building in some travel to a completely different part of the world if you do a gap year? Is there some really brilliant voluntary work you could get involved in somewhere else in the UK that could have that similar life-changing experience for you? Think really long and hard about it. There are lots of companies, and if you do a Google search that just says Gap Year UK, you'll get dozens of companies coming up that exist to help set you up for all kinds of amazing experiences in taking a gap year. The world literally is your oyster. There's so much choice out there, and you'll need to do lots of research. I will talk about it more in the video about the financial implications of post-18 options, but there is always a cost involved in taking a gap year. You need to factor that in. You might need to work for a bit before you go off and do your gap year, whatever you decide that you want to do. But just remember, adventure awaits. There is the opportunity there for you to do something extraordinary that you might never get the chance to do in the rest of your life. So, how do you choose what you want to do for a gap year? Well, it might be that you've got a burning passion or interest. You might be really into wildlife, and therefore that might lead to you going off and helping in an elephant sanctuary in Thailand, for example. Do you want to go overseas, or would you rather stay in the UK? In which case, there are all kinds of voluntary organisations that will take you on a gap year, and it's effectively like an internship where they'll pay you a living wage while you spend your year volunteering with them, and that could give you the chance to live independently as well, because they might be based in a different part of the country. Do you need to work to be able to finance what you decide you're going to do in your gap year? I just talked about the elephant sanctuary in Thailand. We had a student a few years ago who was desperate to go and do that, and discovered that obviously they're going to have to pay for flights to get themselves to Thailand. So they went off and worked for 3 or 4 months, saved the money that they were earning, and that then funded the next 8 months of a gap year before they went to university. And they were very gleefully able to send me an email in the middle of a very cold January. I had an email arrive in my inbox at school of this student on a beach in Thailand where she was helping to wash down a family of elephants in the sea. What an amazing experience. That could be you if you decide that you're going to have an adventure during your gap year. These are some of the companies that can help set you up. So there's one in particular on here. Camp America is another really good opportunity for gap year experiences, where you get to go and work in a summer camp in America. Obviously, because of the time of the year, that might fill up the summer of the end of year 13 and the summer before you go off and start your apprenticeship or your university degree. You'll have a period in between where you'd need to be doing something else as well. But there's loads and loads of companies that you can go to. And interestingly, UCAS, which is the body you apply to university through, has got a whole section on their website devoted to gap years and productive ways of filling a gap year. So don't think, even if you're not going to university, that UCAS can't help you, because they provide all kinds of information on there about gap years. They also provide all kinds of information on their website about apprenticeships and how they work, and some advice and guidance, particularly around degree apprenticeships. So you don't have to be going to university to take advantage of what is on that UCAS website. Whatever it is that you decide to do, whether it's going to be researching a starting career for employment, or researching an apprenticeship that you'd like to do and the level that you'd like to study it at, or whether you decide you want to do a gap year, it's really important that you get underway with that thinking now, because the process is going to take you a lot longer than you think it is. You're not just going to be able to get to the end of your exams in June of year 13 and think, right, okay, let's plan a gap year. You won't have time. So get underway with it now. Start the research now so that you know exactly what you need to do. Make that plan and stick to it. And don't forget, you still need to have a personal statement, whether you are applying for an apprenticeship or full-time employment, or university. So while you are researching these options, you still need to be working on putting your personal statement together. At the end of a gap year, you will then be going on and doing something else, a job, an apprenticeship, going to university. You're going to need a personal statement to do those three things. Do it now while you've got the time and while you've got the support of the staff at school to make sure that it is done and ready for you to use. So everything you need around looking up about employment, apprenticeships and gap years is on the website. There are pages on the website for those options. Use the information that's there, follow the links so that you can get your research underway, so that you're able to begin to make your plan for going forward. The next video is going to be all about university and how you choose a university.